On today's video, we'll be taking a look at some of my favorite draft sets as well as pre-release sets that I've ever played in Magic the Gathering. Hi everyone, welcome back. MTG Moxman here. I hope you're all having a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. You know, I was thinking about this and I was talking with a few people on the channel. Somebody asked me to make this video. Don't worry, Matt, I got you covered, bro. And it was about your favorite experiences when you play draft and pre-release sets you remember. Because as the years go by and we experience so many worlds that Wizards sets up for us, so many experiences and themes and mechanics, a lot of times you will go back in your memory and you'll have that particular set you really enjoyed, a particular theme or mechanic, or just an experience at a store. Those are your nostalgic memories coming back saying, that was fun. And a lot of times we will go back and relive those experiences. We will buy an extra box just so we can draft with our friends on a Friday night at some point, crack that bad boy open 5 years from now, and play it all again and remember how great it was. It's an amazing time. Either you're drafting, you're pre-release. I can remember a lot of great memories. Now, back in the day when I first started playing, we didn't have organized play the same way. Like we didn't do pre-releases and stuff like that when I was doing Fallen Empires, Ice Age, Alpha, Beta, whatever. You didn't do that stuff. But as the years went by and we got to experience it at stores and you start going to face-to-face 401 up north games, the places I visit, I sit there and go, those were amazing times. Not every set rings true for everyone though. There's certain sets you're going to remember fondly. Maybe you had a good experience, you traded in some great cards, maybe you just won the tournament and blew your mind away. Other times, the cards were great and you just didn't draw the right thing. Depending on your experience at that particular set, you might say, I want to buy it again. That's where a lot of people got into collecting sealed product. They said, I want the ability to buy it again and not pay massively exorbitant prices. I'll buy it now for $130, $150, and I'll just store it, and later on, I can come back to that set at a later date with some friends. It's a really amazing time. So I'll go over the list of ones that I remember fondly and had good experiences with, and I'll explain it to you. So of course, we're going to start off with Dominaria. Dominaria for me was a really big time. It was the idea that Richard Garfield brought us back. I saw amazing cards I enjoyed, and although my draft experience was not that great, my pre-release was amazing. I got those little 2/2 knights and stuff, and I was bringing back cool creatures. I may not have had any big bomb cards, but reading the flavor text, having those conversations with other players at the tables as I faced off against them, that really brought me home to a great experience at the store. It was amazing to think about how far the game had come. The cool saga cards were in there. I mean, even Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, although I didn't get one in my draft or my pre-release, people did get it, and I did have to face off against it. Even in a pre-release or a limited format like that, it was pretty brutal. But what a great time. Those experiences ring fondly for me, and I knew I was going to love this set. So I grabbed a couple extra boxes, and I'm sitting on them for later in life. It's amazing. Now, how about War of the Spark? When I think of War of the Spark, I look at that set, and it was an epic tale of a planeswalker battle. Everyone's facing off against Bolas to overthrow him. You have the huge Dread Horde army that came from Amonkhet. It was pretty amazing, like, overarching epic story. Not everyone liked the weak planeswalkers. I understand all that. But when I looked at the cinematic video with Liliana and stuff, and you look at the battle scenes that go on, and the fact that planeswalkers died during this, maybe I wish they killed a few more, but when I look at that storyline, and I remember my pre-release experience, because I didn't get to draft it very often. I was thinking about that. I did have good at pre-release experiences, though, where I managed to, somebody pulls out a Nick of Bolas, but then the very next turn I top draw an Ugin the Effable, and I take them out, and I eliminate their guy, and I start manifesting creatures. I had an amazing experience. I mean, I won, which was great, but it's not just about winning. More than that builds up your memory of a set. It's how the set played out. There's a reason why a set like Dominaria and War of the Spark continue to rise in value. A lot of players must have had good experiences. They've held on to some boxes. They bought a few extra here and there. And it's going to cause that price to rise because after they're all gone, they're gone. But the experience of drafting the set, passing the cards around, seeing what people get, and you're like, oh man, I didn't think about building that deck. That's awesome. And you remember that. Or you're about to take the person out and they come up with some epic combo you didn't even think about, or they just managed to connect the right cards together and you're like, ah! That's why War of the Spark even with those minor planeswalkers and little tiny creatures, with the Lazo top plating, it was amazing. Okay, it was well put together. And at the end, of course, they don't kill Bolas because, you know, you got to bring him back at some other point. But the idea that he's out of the show for a while, give us a 5-year break, a lot of people are pretty happy with that. It has a good memory to it for a lot of players out there that I've spoken to, as well as myself. It's amazing. I love that stuff. So, the next one is going to be Kaladesh. Now, the funny thing is for Kaladesh, I was not at first very hyped for the set when I saw the cards or even the box. I was kind of like, looks like an Arabian Nights knockoff is how my mind played it. But when I started seeing the spoilers of the cards and the idea of the artifice and stuff, and I really started getting into it. And when I showed up at the pre-release, I don't remember all the cards' names, but I had like the Gear Hulk, the Torrential, the blue Golem guy. And I remember pulling that out, and in one match, the guy had me pinned down, but I got some card that made a copy of an artifact, and it just kind of copied everything out. And I had these little things that would tap artifacts, and I remember this so fondly because as I'm playing it, I'm going, oh, I can do this, and I can do this, and this will happen, okay, and then this, and everyone, and I realized at that moment, everyone at my table, this like 15-person long table, everyone stopped playing, and they're watching what I'm doing. And I go, what? The guy goes, dude, this is awesome. You've got like 4 Gear Hulk. This is crazy. I'm going, oh yeah, I guess I do. It's those moments that now when I ring back, I didn't get an invention. That's great that inventions are in there. But in the moment of a set, it's how I played it. It's how it worked out for me. And the same for the players at home. They may have had an entirely different experience for Kaladesh, but for me, that moment at the pre-release, doing that scene, having those cards all connect together randomly with me not really thinking about it, and then realizing everyone's looking at you, that's pretty amazing. And it'll ring a good memory later on. Which means I want to get more of this box. I want to have the ability. But I was late to the party on that one. I didn't have a lot of funds. That's how it works sometimes. But the memory is there. Good memory, good experiences. I enjoyed it. Now, when we go on, you think of Aether Revolt as my next one. It's the exact same type of experience. I didn't win my pre-release or any of my draft matches, come to think of it. But because I had such a good time with Kaladesh and I liked the way Aether Revolt was put together, I had a blast playing it. And I had a lot of close matches where you're like, you're just a turn away or 2 turns away. And the one match, in my draft matches, I made a mistake. And I was just like, oh, what was I thinking? I didn't tap your... Oh, I had the chance to tap somebody's stuff and win the game. And it just didn't work out. You weren't thinking. I overplayed my board. And I wasn't looking at things the right way. And that happens. But my experience was no less great when I played that match. When that happened, I still had a blast doing it. I congratulated the other player. I remember one time I played against in one of the draft matches. I played against a younger kid, like a 12, 13-year-old. And I'll be honest, he was ninja. Like he was a bloody ninja, man. He took me out. I'm like, wow, man, this is a good deck you got. You built a nice thing with your draft cards. That's pretty crazy. And I congratulated him because that was one of those things you're like, don't underestimate youth, man. They can learn like the best of us and take us out. It was fun. It was a good time. That's what Magic's supposed to be. And that's why when it comes to collecting the game, certain people actually always go back to the same sets. They may buy 10 extra boxes. Like, I don't like any of this new product. It doesn't interest me. So I keep drafting and playing older sets right now. Or I have friends who play just particular decks and sets. You're like, oh, we're going to play this Friday, but it's only War of the Spark decks. That kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. Now, when we think of the next one, I'm going to talk about Avacyn Restored. Now, this is funny. This one for me, when I looked at the set, I loved it because it's, you got Avacyn, Angel of Hope. We got some amazing cards in the set. I like anything to do with Innistrad. It's a very good time, okay? But when I played the set, I was stuck playing like a white deck. I had a lot of the little tiny, creatures you could pump up, get little abilities. I'm like, but it was one of those days where everything pulled right. All the little guys came out in order, and I had all the right removal to take out the other decks I played against. So you just felt like you were sweeping people aside. They're like, wow, you got a really good deck you put together. I'm like, no, actually, you guys passed on all these cards. You all went for those big bombs, and I went for the small guys, and my deck is just playing out well. And that can happen too. So when you think of a set like that, you're like, yeah, I won that one. It may not be the set that I remember as fondly as the years go by, but I do remember winning in that experience and having that big play group of like 30 people. It was a lot of groups at different tables. And when my matches were done, I was walking around watching what people were doing. And I saw amazing combinations and some great chatter at the tables, where you're just seeing what people are thinking and saying when a good play goes off. Or I'll be honest, there was a few frustrated people there too who things didn't go well, and they should have. They had amazing decks. When you look at it afterwards, you go, yeah, you have a good deck. I don't know what happened to you. It happens. But your experience was no less. So that's why a lot of people remember these sets fondly, right? Now, new Phyrexia. I know. We're going back a little bit. It's like 2011, I think. Guys, I had a great experience of that. Again, one of those ones I didn't win. This was a particular draft round. I didn't get a lot of good stuff. I was kind of doing like a 3-color deck, so I couldn't pick what to go. And that was my mistake. I picked 3 colors. I couldn't get things going for me, and I got slaughtered. But I saw some people at the table after I was out, and I wanted to stay and watch what was going on. And there was a few players there who just managed to connect all the dots. Even when it looked like they were losing, they managed to pull things ahead. And don't forget, New Phyrexia has a good story. Again, those overarching story types that drag you in. Same with Avacyn. When Wizards puts together a good tale, and they put the lore in there with the cards, that builds up the expectation for later. You may at the moment be like, it was a good set, I had a good time. But as the years go by, you go, man, I remember that match. I remember reading, and that's how I go. That's how my mind, that's why I don't buy every Magic set. Time Spiral Remastered means nothing to me. But Dungeons & Dragons will always have a fond spot because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing it. Even though I didn't get to do any pre-releases at the time, I enjoyed taking that home and having it and hoping for the future when I do get to do it. It's going to be good times. Now, Khans of Tarkir. This is one of those ones where although I won, like I won my overall, grouping, I was a little miffed. Because at the Khans of Tarkir, when I was there with all my friends, like 8 of us there, you're all in different groups. This was 401 games. It was our second floor of the building. And as we were playing the matches, I come against a guy, I forget what the creature was, but it was like some white thing that was like a 2/6 or a 3/6, whatever it was. An ox or beast of some kind. But for some reason, the guy had 4. Our pre-release kits were 6 cards. 6 cards. Sorry, 6 packs. But he's got 4 of them. 4 of this creature. I have no way of stopping. It's too big. I said to the guy, you got 4 of these? He goes, yeah, man, I pulled 4. But as I finished my round, and I lost that round, I looked around and they were selling the, the intro decks at the front counter. So my mind immediately goes, this guy's cheating. He went and bought some intro decks. He cracked the packs privately, and he's added the cards into his deck. And it got me going. I was really upset because I said, I just know he did it. There's no way in 6 packs he got 4 of that creature. Now, honestly, he could have. But at the same time, I just didn't believe it was possible. Now, later on, it was fine. I had some good cards, and I took some players out. But at that moment, I still remember it. Which means my experience was still there. And I had a good time. And fetch lands were brought back in. And you're thinking about all those moments of the players you played against. And I watched that guy lose later on to another player, and I was happy. Like I swept a guy really quick. I got up from my table. I thought I would just stretch my legs. And I look over, one table over is the guy that beat me. I'm just watching his match intently. Right? And the player he played against was like an older gentleman. And he just had all these, flyers that his ground guys couldn't do anything against. You're like, you're gone, buddy. I was so happy. And I know I shouldn't take as much joy, but because my mind was fixated on the fact this guy must have cheated to get 4 of that beastie into his deck, I was just happy he was gone. So Khans has that moment where I'm like, yeah, that self-indulgent moment, which is why, again, I bought extra boxes of it. I enjoyed the set. I enjoyed playing that draft experience, that pre-release experience at 401 many times over that month or 2 that I really was into it there. It was really, really good. And the last one I want to talk about is going to be Battle for Zendikar. Now, for Battle for Zendikar, because, I've seen the spoilers. I remember in my head, I've seen the spoilers. I know what's going on. I'm a little disappointed we don't have as cool of Eldrazi's. I was actually, missing Annihilator. Although some of the cards, they're still pretty good. But I was like, there's no Annihilator. And in the story, they're going to kill the Eldrazi. And Gaywatch takes them out. But, Ugin and Sorin, those guys couldn't. Seems like they're overpowered. You see where I'm going with this? I was a little bit like, this isn't right. But on the day I saw some of those matches, and I saw the combinations of how people got the little Eldrazi they could sack for mana and stuff like that, and they pumped out these big Eldrazi a couple times. You're like, oh wow, like the Not the big bomb guys, but like the Crusher and stuff like that. You're like, that's cool. You got that bad boy out right away. Those were good experiences. And it is Eldrazi, which for a lot of players has a good, deep connection to how they play when they think these giant behemoths like sweeping through a world, destroying it. You can't help yourself. It is epic to see it happen. And although my deck was pretty mediocre, mid-range, I had that, the Sower 5/6 thing. I did really well with that because I got almost every time in my 40-card deck. But I didn't have the mana pump-ups that a lot of the other players had. I had these like mid-range creatures, which did lead me to victory in the end. But for a while there, you're like freaking out. You're glad you have some removal when you need it. I was like, oh man, and I got no planeswalkers, so I felt a little bit down. But when you actually go to the matches and you get the excitement, when you go, oh, I can take that out, buddy. I got removal for you. You're going down. You can see the match unfolding in your head like chess, and you know which way it's going to go, even if the other player doesn't see it. It was kind of epic, you know? So think about the sets you guys enjoy. Think about the one you enjoyed the most. It might be the most unlikely set for you. A good experience is so hard to come by. And when a set rings as true as it does in your mind, those are the ones that later on you tend to buy as a collector or an investor. Those ones you go after. Those are my favorite ones, I think, right now, that I remember really well. There's some other ones I remember going, but I'm like, I don't remember any real good moments, which tells me it didn't really hold in my head that well. Interesting stuff. So tell me what you guys think, guys. What are your favorite sets out there? What has been the bad boy of comedy set that you love the most and would love to buy extra boxes of? Thanks a lot for tuning in. This is MTG Moxman. Hope you guys have an awesome day. Play some Magic. Gotta play some Magic. Big shout out to all my patrons out there. Thanks again for supporting the channel and allowing the channel to grow. Without my patrons, we would not still be here. Patrons make that world go round. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you all on the live stream this week. We're going to have a blast. Happy holidays to everybody. I find it very interesting that as I was talking about this video, and thanks, Matt, it was a great idea. When you're talking about these videos and you look back at your sets, I never drafted Iconic, Modern, any of those Master Series, never touched them. Rebels Ixalan, other than a couple of fat packs a friend got me, I don't own any of that box. When you see Guilds of Ravnica, I don't own any of it. You don't see any boxes in the background, okay? Because those aren't sets I went after. Either the set didn't remind me of anything, I didn't play very well in it. Whatever the experience was, it wasn't great. When I look at War of the Spark, Dominaria, New Phyrexia, Avacyn, those are the sets that grab me because I remember playing well in them or having an experience that reminded me of memory. It's very interesting how our minds do it. It may not be the most expensive set. I may have chosen some wrong ones because I enjoyed them, but that's all that matters. It's very situational, isn't it? Every player's different. Anyway, guys, have a great one. Just thoughts out there. You know how it goes. Hope you're having a great day. You can put Ash in the comments section if you made it this far. I mean, why not? A little Ash action is always good. You guys have an awesome day, man. See you guys soon.